Hello. Hi, so vlog 17, and this one's a really, really exciting vlog because, as I told you in the last one, there was a lot to look forward to coming up, which was this past weekend. So I'm gonna do this, one day at a time. I'll probably break it into two because there's just so much stuff that happened each night that it would be forever and ever and go on forever and ever. Plus, it's two different bands, so I have to break it up. First, I'm going to say I'm all dressed up because on Thursday, which I didn't know this, the last time I vlogged, but on Thursday, Jason Rossi from Radio 929 called me and I have an interview to be a part of their street team. So basically, I'd be doing what I did with BRU, except for paid. So I'm really excited about that. So going to the interview, I have to leave in probably 15 minutes, 20 minutes for that. So I'm really excited. But I'm going to start off with Friday. So Friday was huge. Friday was the WBRU Sweet Potato Ball. So we get there to the Met, and I've never been to the Met, but it's really nice. It's a good venue. I like it. And we get there, and of course, Sleeper Agent's on stage sound checking. So I'm like, pumped. I'm so excited. So they do a few different songs, and I know I recognize blips from the songs, and then they do Get It Daddy Full. And so all of us were dancing around and singing to it. And so then, Vulgarity plays, and I've seen Vulgarity three times, and they're really good, and you should check them out. They're a brother sister duo, Tracy and Sean, and they both play every instrument. And what they do is, like, Sean will start a loop, and then he'll record that and loop the guitar, and then he'll get on drums, and Tracy will get on bass and keyboard, and then somewhere during one of the songs, they'll just go, "Whoop, giving you the guitar, giving you the drumsticks," and it's really crazy. So during their set, started talking to a few guys in Sleeper Agent. So I go outside with the other intern girl, Stacy, which I never met her, but um, she's really cool, so I'm gonna probably hang out with her, maybe, doing more intern stuff. And so we both go outside because two of the members of Sleeper Agent are outside, Tony and Josh. And so we go outside and Josh goes, "Hey," he goes, "look at you dancing during sound check." And I was just like, "Oh, hey, I love you guys, not to be like a fangirl or anything." And he's like, "Oh, no problem." And he goes, "We love you." And then I talked about the audio perv and how I wrote the album review for, Celebration. And he goes, "That was you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "And I know you did like the CMJ party for Audio Perv." And he goes, "Yeah, yeah." He's like, "Yeah, he's a cool guy." I was like, "That's awesome." So then throughout the night, like if he walked by, we'd be like, "Josh," and he'd be like, "What's up, guys?" And then Scott's the one with the crazy hair. He plays keyboard. He'd walk by, we'd be like, "Hey." So it was really cool. And then during their set, we got as close as we could. A lot of people, were already standing there, so we didn't want to cut in front of them. But we basically were like, look at our shirts. We're with BRU. We're taking pictures. And they were like, "Oh, okay." So we got in front of them. And they played like a really, really good set. At the end, they played Be My Monster, which is probably one of my favorite songs off of Celebration. And Tony and Alex just jumped down and crushed the audience. Like they were just like, "We're gonna perform right here in the audience on top of you guys." It's pretty awesome. So after that, there's like a little intermission and waiting for Joy Formidable to come on. So we were all talking, and then Wendell comes up. And Wendell's like, "What's up, guys?" And we're like, "We want to hang with the band. We want to hang with Sleeper Agent. So can you get us to do that?" And he's like, "Yeah." So we walked up to Scott, and so we were talking to Scott, and then Lee and this other kid, which was his friend, and I learned his name is Joe. He's actually from the same town as Lee, or as Sleeper Agent, Bowling Green, Kentucky, but he goes to Brown. So he's in Providence, so they met up. And so we ended up talking to them, and we ended up standing outside for like an hour. No, me and the girls were just in like t-shirts. I had sleeves underneath, but it was still kind of cold out. Lee being from Bowling Green, Kentucky is like, this is freezing cold weather. What is this? I'm not used to this. So, we talked to him about like everything, like, sorry, my dog's chewing on something. Uh, we talked to him about different things, like he was interested in high school and just random stuff. And Joy Formidable were already on stage, but I mean, I caught a few of their songs before we went outside. Like they played Abacus, and I liked that song. And then I knew they were going to end with Whirring, because I saw the set list, whatever. Um, so I was like, I don't really know any of the other songs except for Abacus and Warring, so I mean, and they'll come around another time. So we talked to Joe and Lee, and then we ended up going inside for the end, and we were all planning on who was going where. And when there's six people in a band, and half of them are slightly drunk, and then you have all of the people that you're responsible for driving. Well, I wasn't driving, it was Kevin, the other one. I mentioned Kevin before. And so it was a bunch of BRU people and the band and the band's manager. So we're like, who's going with who? So half of the band went with their manager. And then we were going to take Lee and Scott and Alex back to the hotel. But it was really cool because, I mean, how many times do you get to watch bands like talk to each other? So Alex was talking to Ritzy, and I think his name's Rinian of the Joy Formidable. But either way, they're really, really Welsh, and their accents are amazing. So we were still waiting for Alex to talk to them, so we were all talking. So I ended up sitting down with Lee again and Joe and talking about how Sleeper Agent, some of the members went to high school together when Lee was a freshman, which is funny because Lee's actually the same age as me, and Alex is the same age as me. So that's kind of cool that, it's relatable. But when Lee was a freshman, Scott was a senior, and he led the marching band, and he would do the morning announcements. And whenever it was like, I think he said it was a Wednesday, he'd do this thing where it'd be like, chicken rings! So after we made Scott do it, and it was hilarious. And, hold on, my dog is chewing something apart. No, fresh. Anyway, um, so we were waiting, and then finally, like, we ended up getting all of them together. Well, getting Lee, Alex, and Scott together. And then Alex didn't leave yet, so then Scott and Lee disappeared. And I had gotten his number before because we're like, well, what's your hotel room number? Because we're not going to be able to find you. We'll get to the hotel. So he's like, here, take my number. And I was just like, okay. So Scott and Lee disappeared. And we were like, okay, so I texted him, I'm like, where are you? And he calls me. Well, we got a ride from these two girls, but then we realized that they're not from BRU. So we're coming back now. So we're like, oh dear. So they come back. And then finally we get, all of them together. And then Alex doesn't leave. So we have Scott and Lee, and then me, Kevin, and one of the BRU DJs, Leah. So we get to the hotel. And then we all go to bed, and Scott was just gone. So he just goes in, and we go up to the room, and Josh is already in bed. And I felt so bad for Josh because Scott just, like, climbed right into bed. And we're like, well, sorry for interrupting you. Like, sorry for waking you. And he's like, no, no problem. So finally, we all go and sit in the lobby. And Tony and the manager, Fang, come back with Alex. And we're like, okay, we know where everyone is now. That's really good. But I didn't end up getting home until almost 4 in the morning, but it was so worth it because we got to learn all about the band and different interests of the band. And it was really cool because Lee was like talking about bassists and how he always like wanted to be a bassist. There's nothing else that he wanted to do. And other bands have like a guitarist and they need a bassist, so they're like, do you want to switch to bass? And it was just awesome to do that. And he mentioned because Leah and I, the BRU DJ, we both love Muse. And that's how we kind of like connected, like met each other, like, oh, hey, like, so I heard you like Muse. And I was like, yeah. So she's like, yeah, one of my favorite, bassists is Chris Wolstenholme. And I was like, that's funny though, because he started as a drummer and switched to bass. And so Lee was just like, yeah, the song Hysteria has one of the best bass lines. And he's like, I tried to learn it, and it took me about a year, and I can almost play it. And I was just like, that's so awesome. Like, one of my new favorite bands likes one of my all-time favorite bands. So I love how that connects. And then he said how the keyboardist Scott was originally a drummer. And Sleeper Agent wasn't Sleeper Agent. It was something else when Scott was the drummer. And then they found Justin, and then they made Sleeper Agent. But it was kind of like a package deal, like a family deal, because they all went to high school together. So they were just like, Scott, you want to play keys? So Scott ended up playing keyboard. And I noticed during their set, Scott randomly picks up drumsticks and starts banging on one of the foundation poles. And I thought, he's just crazy. He did that, but it was cool to learn, he was actually a drummer. So that was really cool. And then, I texted Lee and was like, thank you for being so down to earth. A lot of bands aren't like that. It was really cool hanging out with you guys. And so he was like texting me back the whole time while they were at the airport. And, so it turns out, like, he said, yeah, next time we're in the area, we should all, like, go out to lunch and stuff. And I was just like, I'm friends with Sleeper Agent. And that's one of the best perks of the job. But this video is almost 11 minutes, and I got all of my excitement out for this one. So, and, oh, it's 12:36, so I kind of got to leave in 10 minutes. So I'll let you know how the interview goes, and then I'll either come back later or probably tomorrow, because my parents think I'm weird if I talk to my computer, or at least I think my parents will think I'm weird if I talk to my computer, so I don't want to be talking to my computer while they're home, and they're not home at this time of the day. So I'll tell you all about the Kooks because it's good tomorrow. So I'll let you know how the interview goes, and I'll tell you about the Kooks. So thanks for putting up with me this far. And if you have any questions, just feel free to comment and ask anything. So thanks for watching, guys. Bye.